Good morning. Just waiting for people to jump on. Oh, I see 3 people joining. Good morning from Australia. It is 7:31 a.m. Who's about? Feel free to jump on and say hi. I won't bite, I promise. We do have a little bit of lag though, so if you say hi, it takes a few minutes to show up on my end. So I'm not ignoring you, it just takes a little while. Welcome, it's lovely to be connected. Oh, I sound like Abraham Hicks. Is anybody familiar with Abraham Hicks? Hi Amanda, lovely to see you. It is lovely to be connected in this moment, is it not? There we go, that's a bit of Abraham Hicks for you. Something like that, they say something like that. Anyway, I promised a part 2 to autism and toileting. I will ask that we do our very best to abstain from leaving personal details about our children in the comments section, solely for the purpose of, hi Nikki, respecting their right to dignity and privacy. And if you have any specific questions about your children, you can always email me at support@intunepathways.com.au. That way we're speaking privately, it's just myself, and we're not putting our children's details out there for the world to see. Thanks, Amanda. I got my hair cut yesterday. It was a very essential service, let me tell you. Whew, I feel like myself again. I was borderlining on, the old mullet / Elvis, not in his good days. I'm talking the end days. Yeah. Anyway, let's get started. So I have made some notes, which I find really distracting. Hi, Linda. Hi, Rachel. And I'm winging it as well, so I may forget things. If I forget anything, I'll make some notes and pop them on the page as well. And I'm happy to answer some questions. I do have to leave at about 5 to 8 because I have a consult with somebody at 8 o'clock. Okay, so let's talk toileting. I mentioned in the last live, I'm Kristy Forbes, by the way, for anybody that is new. I am autistic and ADHD and PDA, Pathological Demand Avoidance. I'm married to an autistic man. Hi Susan, welcome. I have 4 children, 4 girls who are all autistic, and we also have some other alphabet letters in there, ADHD and PDA. And I'm an autism and neurodiversity support specialist, so I support families who are raising autistic children or who are autistic themselves. Neurodivergent, I like to say, because it covers the whole gamut of alphabet letters. And I work with professionals, and I do speaking events, design courses. Basically, I just love supporting people to understand our community. So, I did say in the last live that it's important to first acknowledge and accept that autistic children, autistic people, are on their own developmental timeline, and we are all completely different. So, it's very important first and foremost to let go of comparison and to let go of possibly the pathology model of autism. So when I speak about autism, I speak about it as my identity and my culture. I don't use the word disorder in association with autism, but it is absolutely a disability, but we're looking at the social model of disability rather than the medical model, and that's a whole other topic. So when we look at an autistic person, we are acknowledging that they are just a different type of person, and welcome. And when we are working on, when we're approaching developmental milestones, it's important to know that autistic children are on their own timeline. I mean, realistically, everybody's on their own developmental timeline, right? And often we'll hear professionals reassuring parents of non-autistic children, oh, don't worry too much. People in the community, family and friends will say, don't worry about that too much. They'll get there when they're ready. And then when the word autism is attached, it's panic. It's red flags. We actually use that language, red flags. There I go with this again. And I would encourage you to let go of the red flag talk and just understand that it's okay when autistic children take a little bit longer to get there. In terms of toileting, so many children who are autistic respond really well to visuals. So I want to point you in the direction of my lovely friend and autistic colleague, Sarah, over at the Autistic OT, and I've popped the link to her page in the text up the top describing what this is about. She has some really wonderful visuals and information about toileting that you can find over on her page, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind you contacting her or leaving a message on her page to ask about where they might be. So we often have visuals in the toilet that outline the procedure of what's going to happen. So what do we do first? We might pull our pants down, or, it's really about what works for the family as well. So there is no set rule or approach for every autistic child. It's really about, and I really encourage this in any circumstance, to approach the child as just a unique individual, letting go of those generic approaches for autistic children just because the word autism is there. They're still unique individuals. So we might have visuals in the toilet, but it's important to prepare our children to know what a toilet is and what it's used for and what's in it for us. Why do we need to go to the toilet when our pull-ups are so comfy wumpy and we can use those forever? And some children will not respond well to visuals. It might heighten their anxiety. So particularly in demand avoidant children, children who have pathological demand avoidant profiles of autism, visuals can be received as a demand and heighten our anxiety and actually have the opposite effect, stop us from using the toilet, because that can become a demand. Look, in terms of reward systems, I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan, but it's not for me to tell families what is right or wrong for them, or what is good or not good. So that's entirely up to the family. I guess the reason I'm not a fan of reward systems is because it's not helpful in developing the intrinsic motivation for tuning into our body's signals and using the toilet. If we're purely motivated by, hi Sarah, welcome. If we're purely motivated by extrinsic value, then we're not really gaining or grasping a good understanding of what this process is about. However, in saying that, if you're finding that reward systems work, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I never tell families what to do. I can only give the information that I have, and that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong for you. No pressure, no stress, no worries. Take what you like and leave the rest. Having a timer, so setting a timer for ourselves and checking in every 10, 15, 20 minutes and gradually loosening that up and saying, okay, time for the toilet, let's visit the toilet. Now, it doesn't matter, here come the birds, welcome to Australia. It doesn't matter if every 10 minutes your child is not sitting on the toilet. It's the act of going there. It's the act of establishing that routine. It's getting into the habit of knowing that every so often this is what we're going to do. Now I want to say, if there's any resistance, if there's any upset, and that may not just be through verbal communication, it can be body language. If there's any self-harm, so our children hitting themselves or becoming really distressed, then that is a really good indication that we need to let it go. That something is frightening for them, something's disturbing or bothering them, and it's so important to listen to that. I've heard from so many therapists and professionals to ignore an autistic child's protests. Actually, what we're doing in that process is overlooking their basic human rights. If I stated that I didn't want to do something and I was ignored, imagine what that does to a child when we ignore their protests. I'm telling you, we're moving into dangerous territory doing that, because we lose trust. The child doesn't feel safe and secure or comfortable. And these are the most important things with our children, because they're often experiencing anxiety as a co-occurring condition. Hi, Sue. Yes, I'll get to that shortly. Great question. So safety and trust and security is so important. If our children say, I don't want to use the toilet, or they express any fear, please listen to that. Please listen to that. Because we're teaching our children that when they set boundaries, they'll be heard as well, that they're allowed to say no. We never want to have our children in a situation where their no is turned into a yes, because that just extends out into other territory in relationships, with other people who may be predators and prey on vulnerable children. We really need to be so mindful of hearing our children's no and tuning into their discomfort. So if that's going on, we take a step back and we try again another time. There's no rush. There's absolutely no rush for toileting. And I know that often the information that we're given as parents is that there is, that this is crucial, that this is a life skill, that if we don't get it happening now, it's never going to happen. I want to tell you that's not true. It's absolutely not true. We don't pick up our non-autistic children and push them along when they're not walking. That's not what we do. We be patient and we wait. And it doesn't matter if our autistic child is 9 years old and still wearing pull-ups, that is okay. It's okay. I promise you it's okay. Safety, security, connection is most important. Some really important things to know too about how the autistic brain works. And again, we're all so different because it is a spectrum. There are a range of issues around, or challenges around, toileting that are not just about children protesting. It's not black and white. It's not simple. Some of us struggle to retain information. Some of us need a lot of reminding. So that's why sometimes visuals are really helpful, because it lays out the process. We do this first, we sit on the toilet next, we do this, we wipe, we wash our hands, and then we're done. And then there are, for some of us who are autistic, because we're so concrete in our thinking and our approaches, if we're using the one toilet all of the time, then what we might come away with is the understanding that that's the toilet. That's the only place that we use the toilet. So we might be out shopping and mum might say, okay, let's go to the toilet in here, in a public toilet, and it might completely throw us off and cause major anxiety because what is this? This is a whole new concept. What? That's not the toilet? Even though it is a toilet, it looks like a toilet, we can see that. In our mind, the only place we've been doing this is at home, so that's the only place I'm going to be doing my business, the toilet at home. So it's important, once we've established using the toilet at home, to slowly start practicing using other toilets in different environments. And again, if that's stressful or uncomfortable, we go slowly and we take our time. It's okay to use a potty or a toilet, whatever works. It's okay to use steps. It's okay to lift our children up onto the toilet. Whatever works. It's okay if it takes us a year or two, or even longer, to have our child comfortable enough to go into the toilet. So, I mentioned last time that sometimes we might have pictures of their favourite things in the toilet. It's important to allow them to take their comfort items into the toilet. Some people's children take their iPad onto the toilet. I think that this is all okay because sorry everyone, Caroline says okay, yeah, it's okay, Caroline. When comments come up about children's personal details, they're hidden. So there's no stress here. I just want to reassure you. And I've set out some really important guidelines up the top saying that we're not sharing personal information about our children. And that's okay. Some people aren't aware of that, so we're patient and kind and accepting. But thank you for your concern. It is an important one for sure. So, yes, if they want to use their iPad, fine. Sometimes we might like to sing with our children while they're on the toilet or blow bubbles. It's really about what's comfortable for them. Now, somebody's asked a really great question up here, and I'm just trying to find it. Oh, I've lost it. Basically, it's a question about when our children don't experience the sensation of needing to use the bathroom or the toilet. This is extremely common. And this is about our sensory systems. So there are many sensory systems which we're always learning about. One of them, first of all, there's the obvious ones that autistic people often struggle with. So there's strong smells. So that's not just about other people's business creating a bit of a waft in the bathroom. It's about the chemicals that we're using to clean our toilets. They may be potent, and if they're not obviously potent to you, that doesn't mean that they're not to your autistic children. So that may be a problem, the smell in the toilet. Also, the texture of the toilet paper. It could be the way the walls look. It could be that our child saw a spider web in the corner once and they're never going to go back in there. It could be the feeling of the mat. We might be tactile defensive. It could be the temperature in there. Comfort is so important, and knowing about our children's sensory profiling and sensory integration and sensory differences and sensitivities is so important. And you can also get some help with that with an occupational therapist. And then there's other sensory systems like interoception. And this isn't something that's well known because it's just starting to be talked about a lot now. Interoception is the awareness of what's happening inside of our bodies. So when we're hungry or thirsty, when we're tired, or when we need to go to the toilet. So many of our children don't realize they need to go to the toilet until they're in absolute agony. And sometimes they'll feel a pain and still not realize it's related to the toilet. And I was one of those children. I clearly remember often going to my teachers and saying, I feel sick, I've got a really awful pain in my tummy, and they would encourage me to use the loo, and I would, and I'd be amazed. Wow, that's magical, I feel amazing now. So that definitely happens. Also, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Good old trusty ADHD brain. What did I just say? Oh, yes, the interoception. Also, when we're hyper-focused. So if we are passionate about something, if we're really... Autistic people live in the moment. We live from moment to moment. We don't think too much about what's happening in the future, which is why we have a sense of timelessness. And we're really present in the moment. So if we're playing a video game, if I'm designing, if I'm playing the piano, if I'm watching something on TV, if I'm in a conversation with another person, if I'm engaged in something that brings me a lot of joy and happiness and connection and peace, otherwise known as our special interests, then going to the loo is the last thing I'm going to do. And this happens with our children a lot. They'll be busy playing and they'll have an accident, because going to the toilet, it's back there on our list of priorities. When we are so passionate about what we're doing right now, we lose all sense of time, all sense of interoception. And then some of us have a heightened sensitivity to interoception. But what can happen is we feel a sensation in our body and we still aren't sure what it's indicating. So it can heighten our anxiety. This is why many autistic people experience health anxiety, because we might feel a heart palpitation and think we're going to die. Or we might feel hungry, and that problem-seeking, problem-solving autistic brain goes, okay, body, I hear you. There's a need not being met. Let's scan through and see what it is. Is it tiredness? Sometimes we're not sure. Do we need to go to the toilet? Are we hungry? Are we tired? Are we thirsty? Those things can easily get confused with a person who has an interoceptive processing differences. And then we have children who are demand avoidant, or PDA, where toileting is a demand. It's annoying, and we're just going to outright refuse. So what can we do about people with interoceptive differences? Well, we can practice mindfulness. I really try and avoid anything that's become commercialized, but tuning into our bodies. We can practice tuning into our bodies. Actually, I have a print-off that I created a little while ago about the sensory systems and how to, some of the clues around what might be presented as differences in our children. And I might actually upload that in the comments section if I can a little bit later today. Oh, I have to go. We might have to do a part 3. I'm doing a private consultation in 3 minutes. It's so easy to lose track of time. I will return and we will finish this conversation. I am so sorry. There's a great example of timelessness for an autistic person. In the moment, waffling on about my passion and losing track of time completely. I will return. Thank you everybody for being here. Have a wonderful day and we'll continue this conversation. If you'd like to send any specific questions about your personal situation, you can email me at support@intunepathways.com.au and that's in the text. Thanks everyone. Bye.